Randall, hey!
Another episode of the From TV series has dropped, and Season 3, Episode 7 adds more layers to the mystery without providing clear answers to the lingering questions from the last episode. Welcome back to your nerdy show. I'm your host, Spoiler Master. Fatima is grappling with the harsh reality of not being pregnant as last week's ultrasound revealed an empty womb, leading her to take a drastic action that will surely have repercussions. Meanwhile, Tabitha explores the eerie sight of the stick figure statues or totems, while Julie finds herself on an unexpected journey with Randall. Elgen also steps up, trying to assist the ghostly creature that has been tormenting him, though it's far from an easy task. So let's dive into the details of this episode in today's video.
See this? I'm a cop. A real one.
Another hated character is Focused Acosta, spends a few days in the town, and begins to feel the same frustration and anger that many others have voiced before her. She can't help but wonder why there's a diner, an abandoned motel, and even a swimming pool in a place supposedly controlled by monsters. Who could have constructed these facilities? This leads her to suspect that either she or everyone else is being deliberately trapped by a select few for reasons unknown. Despite Kenny's attempts to soothe her by pointing out that nearly everyone in FROMville has pondered similar questions, Acosta dismisses his reassurances. In her current state of mind, Acosta starts to question Boyd's authority, wondering why he is the one tasked with upholding law and order in this strange town. Fueled by her frustration, she storms into the sheriff's office to confront Boyd, challenging his claims of being a war veteran. Meanwhile, Acosta, still in her police uniform and armed with her police ID, feels a strong sense of duty to ensure safety and security in this chaotic environment. When Boyd points out that Acosta's time in the police force pales in comparison to his military service, she quickly retaliates with a personal jab. She reminds him of the recent deaths in town that occurred under his watch, effectively silencing him. Realizing he can't match Acosta's relentless arguments, Boyd reluctantly returns her gun, but first removes the bullets. It's clear that giving someone with such a volatile temperament access to live rounds would only lead to more chaos for the community. Boyd declares that he will hold on to the bullets until Acosta can demonstrate her capability to handle them responsibly. For now, Acosta accepts Boyd's stipulation, but as Kenny warns, she might either escalate the situation further or spiral into despair and take drastic action.
Talk! I know you can talk!
Does Jasper told anything to Victor? Victor spends an entire night yelling at the lifeless doll in his room, desperately seeking answers about the bizarre happenings in FROMville. Henry, worried about his son's mental state, is troubled by Victor's isolation. He hasn't left his room for even a meal, and witnessing this is painful for Henry. In a moment of despair, he confides in Donna that he briefly wished Tabitha had never discovered Victor, and that he had never come to this town. Henry reflects that accepting the loss of his son felt more comforting than watching Victor struggle with his psychological issues and social withdrawal. Yet, Henry recognizes that this is a rare chance to reconnect with his long-lost son and understand him as an adult. Unfortunately, he feels trapped in FROMville, just like everyone else. Meanwhile, Victor remains determined to unravel the mysteries of the town, convinced that Jasper holds the key to significant revelations. He decides to take the doll to Sarah's house, planning to continue his questioning in her basement, where he can be undisturbed. Given the strange and surreal events in From, it's entirely possible that the puppet doll, Jasper, might eventually respond to Victor, though it's uncertain whether it will be a friend or a foe. Elgen and his photographs. In Season 3, Episode 7, Elgen unexpectedly becomes the focus of a photograph when a camera, left on a chair, automatically snaps a picture. At first glance, it appears that the camera has captured Elgen's image on its own, but the truth is far more unsettling. As the camera quickly develops the photo, Elgen discovers that it doesn't show him at all. Instead, it reveals the doors of an underground shed located on the town's outskirts. Interpreting this as a significant clue, Elgen sets out to find the shed, taking the photograph with him. Upon entering the shed, Elgen initially finds it barren, with only a wooden closet at the far end and no other furniture in sight. However, just as he decides to leave, a distinct knock resonates from the wood. suggesting that something or someone wants to make their presence known. Realizing there's a hidden room behind the closet, he pushes it aside and steps inside, where he discovers old beds and remnants of a past inhabitant. His exploration takes a darker turn when he uncovers the lifeless body of a man. At that moment, the eerie figure of a woman, resembling a ghostly apparition in a kimono, reappears, and Elgen fears for his life. Yet there's a chance that this woman is the spirit of someone who perished in the shed while evading monsters, and Elgen may uncover her remains, bringing him closer to unraveling this chilling mystery.
In one way or another, you were always going to come to that tree in the road.
Matthew's family, on their different ways, Tabitha, Jade, and Ethan set off towards the lakeside hut, where Jim and a few others are already busy harvesting crops. Jim is taken aback to see his wife and young son there, and his confusion deepens when he learns about her troubling nightmares. He initially speculates that the recent turmoil in Tabitha's life might be clouding her judgment, causing her to connect unrelated events. However, Tabitha manages to persuade him that the eerie nightmares from her childhood always placed her in this very location, surrounded by totems and the 3 large stones. Jade proposes that perhaps fate has chosen Tabitha for an important role in FROMville, much like Miranda, and this theory gains traction with each revelation. While she struggles to remember the specifics of her nightmares, Tabitha does recall a looming, terrifying presence that haunted her. As the group heads into the hut for the night, the possibility of finally confronting the monster that has been the subject of so many tales looms ahead. In the town, Julie finds herself alone at home while her family heads off to the forest, prompting her to decide to spend the night at the clinic. There, she encounters Randall, and their friendship quickly blossoms as they embark on an unexpected adventure together. When Randall discovers that Jim was meant to teach Julie how to drive just before their arrival in FROMville, he takes it upon himself to step in and borrows the Colony House van. They drive a fair distance from town, but soon Randall begins to hallucinate the insects again, just as he had before. Overwhelmed by the vision, he leaps from the van to escape the imaginary swarm, leaving Julie puzzled as she sees nothing amiss. Concerned, she follows him as he dashes into the nearby forest. It's there that they stumble upon some crumbling arches, remnants of an old, abandoned structure, and both feel an unsettling energy in the air. Julie is intrigued and eager to explore further, but Randall senses a dark presence and insists they head back to town. Interestingly, these arches resemble a location Boyd had visited earlier in the series, which did not end well for him. It remains uncertain whether Randall and Julie will face similar dangers. What happened to Fatima? When Kristy and Mari performed an ultrasound on Fatima, they were taken aback to discover that there was absolutely no evidence of a baby in her womb. Given Fatima's unusual cravings and peculiar circumstances, Kristy concluded that she was experiencing a psychosomatic pregnancy. This means that Fatima's intense desire and thoughts about becoming pregnant had led her body to mimic the signs of pregnancy through hormonal changes. While this phenomenon is uncommon, it is not entirely unheard of, and Kristy is convinced that this is what Fatima is facing. Nevertheless, she remains mindful of the bizarre happenings in FROMville and informs Boyd that the possibility of a creature developing inside Fatima cannot be completely dismissed. Fatima's condition begins to circulate widely, leading her to become somewhat of a social outcast. When Boyd discusses his daughter-in-law's situation with Donna, her response is not what he anticipated. While she does offer her condolences, she insists that Ellis and Fatima should temporarily leave Colony House, citing concerns about the unknown entity that may be affecting her. Although she frames her request in terms of the safety of the other residents, Boyd feels a deep sense of sorrow over her words, even if he manages to hide it well. By the conclusion of Season 3, Episode 7 of From, the nature of Fatima's affliction remains ambiguous. Whether it is psychological or a physical ailment is still up for debate. In a disturbing moment while resting in her room, she discovers a bloody wound on her arm from the drip syringe and feels an overwhelming urge to taste the blood. reminiscent of earlier incidents. This time, however, Fatima fights against the impulse, only to feel a strange tightening in her abdomen, as if something within her is pulling at her skin. At the episode's end, as she again resists the lure of decaying crops, an unseen force seems to grip her from within. Yet, both Ellis and Tilly observe nothing overtly unnatural about her, suggesting that these experiences may indeed be rooted in her mind.
Just go. It's gonna be okay. I said go.
Is Fatima controlled by Creature? At the climax of the episode, Fatima finds herself in a harrowing situation within the greenhouse, where Tilly arrives to offer her comfort, urging her not to be afraid. Overwhelmed by intense pain and frustration, or perhaps momentarily overtaken by the creature within her, Fatima lashes out and stabs the elderly woman with a knife before regaining her composure. Unfortunately, Tilly's fate is sealed as she pleads with Fatima to flee the town, enduring a torturous demise. Meanwhile, Ellis watches this tragic scene unfold. Faced with a difficult decision, should he side with the townspeople who want to keep his wife imprisoned, or should he find a way to help her escape as her situation spirals dangerously out of control? This was for today's folks. See you in our next video. Till then, bye-bye and take care.
You have to run.
No, what the heck, I'll laugh anyway.